Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtatara Shata Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtatara Shata Shri Srimad. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Primsekaho Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shamakun, Radhakun, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Creation? Is that correct? No. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, the Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter, the first step in God realization. Chapter 1, text 26. Patalam etasya hi ada mulam patanti harshni prapade rasatalam mahatalam vishva shrijota gulpo talatalam vai purushaya or purushasya janghe patalam etasya patalam etasya hi padamulam patanti parshni prapade rasatalam mahatalam vishvashrijota gulpo
Lam Vishvashijota Purpo.
Talatalam vai purushasya janghe.
Talam Vai Purushasya Jagge.
Patalam etasya hi padamulam.
Patalametas Paramulam.
Patanti parshne prapade rasatalam.
Patanti Pashni Papade Rasatalam.
Mahatalam vishva shrijota gulpo.
Atalam Vishvashijota Purpo.
Talatalam vai purushasya janghe.
Atalam Vai Purusha.
Pata-
Atalametasya hi paramulam.
Patalam etasya hi padamulam.
Patanti Pashni Papade Rasatalam.
Patanti parshne prapade prasatalam.
Mahatalam Vishvashijota Gulpo.
Mahatalam vishvashrijota gulpo.
Talatalam Vai Purushasya Jange.
Alatalam vai purushasya janghe.
Patalametasya hi padamulam. Patanti parshni prapade rasatalam. Mahatalang vishvasijota gulpo.
Mahatalam vishvashrijota gulpo.
Talatalang vai purushasya janghe.
Alatalam vai purushasya janghe.
Patalam etasya hi padamulam
Patalam etasya hi padamulam.
patanti parshni prapade rasatalam
Patanti parshne prapade prasatalam.
mahatalang vishvasrijota gulpo
Mahatalam vishvashridyota gulpo.
talatalang vai purushasya janghe
Janghe.
talatalam tasya hi padamulam
Padamulam.
patanti parshni prapade rasatalam
Parshne prapade rasatalam.
Mahatalam Vishvasrijota Gupam
Srijota gulpo.
Talatalam Vaipulutsasya Jange
Janghe.
Patalametasya Hipadamulam
Ala etasya mulam.
Patanti Parshni Prapade Rasatalam
Rasatalam.
Mahatalam Vishvasrijota Gulpao
Mahatalam vishvashrijota gulpo.
Talatalam Vaipurushasya Jange
Talatalam vai purushasya janghe.
Patalametasya hi padamulam.
Talametasya hi padamulam.
Patanti parshni prapade rasatalam.
Parshni prapade rasatalam.
Mahatalam vishvasrijota gulpo.
Mahatalam vishvashrijota gulpo.
Talatalam vaipurushasya janghe.
Talatalam vai purushasya janghe.
Patalametasya hi padamulam.
Patalametasya hi padamulam.
Patanti parshni prapade rasatalam.
Parshni prapade rasatalam.
Mahatalam vishvasrijota gulpo.
Mahatalam vishvashrijota gulpo.
Talatalam vai purushasya janghe.
Patalametasya Hipadamulam Patanti Parshni Prapade Rasatalam
Rasatalam.
Mahatalam Vishvasrijota Gulpo.
Mahatalam Vishvashrijota Gulpo.
Talatalam Vaipurusha Shajanghe.
Talatala.
Atalametasya hi paramulam.
Patalametasya hi padamulam.
Vatanti parshni prapadera satalam.
Vatanti parshni prapade prasatalam.
Mahatalang vishvashrijota gupa.
Mahatalam Vishvashrijota Gulpo.
Talatalam vaipurushasya janghe.
Talatalam Vaipurusha Janghe. Atalam, the planets at the bottom of the universe. Closer. This one. Good. Itasya, of his. He, exactly. Padamulam, soles of the feet. Patanti, they study it. Harshni, the heels. Prapade, the toes. Rasatalam, the planets named Rasatala. Mahatalam, the planets named Mahatala. Vishvashrijaha, of the creator of the universe. Ata, thus. Ulpo, the ankles. Talatalam, the planets named Talatala. Vai, as they are. Purushasya, of the gigantic person. Janghe, the shanks. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the Universal Lord, and the heels and the toes are the Rasatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his shanks constitute the Talatala planets. Purport. Outside the bodily existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the manifested cosmic existence has no reality. Everything and anything of the manifested world rests on him, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9:4. But that does not imply that everything and anything in the vision of a materialist is the Supreme Personality. The conception of the universal form of the Lord gives a chance to the materialist to think of the Supreme Lord, but the materialist must know for certain that his visualization of the world and a spirit of lording it over it is not God realization. The materialistic view of exploitation of the material resources is occasioned by the illusion of the external energy of the Lord, and as such, if anyone wants to realize the supreme truth by conceiving of the universal form of the Lord, he must cultivate the service attitude. Unless the service attitude is revived, the conception of Virat realization will have very little effect on the seer. The transcendental Lord, in any conception of his form, is never a part of the material creation. He keeps his identity as Supreme Spirit in all circumstances and is never affected by the three material qualities, for everything material is contaminated. The Lord always exists by his internal energy. The universe is divided into 14 planetary systems. 7 planetary systems called Bur, Bhuvar, Svar, Mahar, Janas, Tapas, and Satya are upward planetary systems, one above the other. There are also 7 planetary systems downward, known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala, gradually one below the other. In this verse, the description begins from the bottom because it is in the line of devotion that the Lord's bodily description should begin from his feet. Shukadev Goswami is a recognized devotee of the Lord, and he is exactly correct in the description. Om Agyana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Kruna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal Lord, and the heels and the toes are the Rasatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his shanks constitute the Tala planets.
The materialists who accept the idea that everything is God, in a sense, they're making progress. However, Prabhupada points out in the purport here that unless they understand or accept the mood of servitude, devotional service, in other words, unless they have a devotional service attitude, their realization of the total manifestation of the Lord will not be very important. It will not help them. That means they need to be guided by a spiritual master who is a Vaishnava. And we'll explain to them how it is that the visualization of the universal form is actually God, is Krishna. This verse, Mayata, he points out chapter 9, text 4. Mayata tamidam sarvam jagara vyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani chaham teshvavatita. This verse says that the Lord he's manifest and everything is his energy. Everything we see, everything we can perceive is his material energy. It's his, he calls it avyaktamurtina, unmanifest form. Avyakta means not manifest, and murtina means form. So it seems contradictory, but that's the point. It is contradictory to the materialists because they don't recognize the personality of Godhead as being the essence of everything. There's nothing that can exist without him. They don't recognize God in the picture of the universe. Therefore, they say that the universe came from void. No God, no personality, no supreme intelligent being, just the void. So that realization is useless. because they remain atheists. The whole point is that if they can see, like we can take a little insect, say an ant crawling on your knee. He can't understand that this is a person. He just thinks this is something, some kind of a mountain or rock, hard place. He doesn't understand that as he moves around on the different parts of the body, that it's a person. Because he's an ant. He's ignorant. And those who look at the material manifestation and don't understand that there's a person, they're just like the ant. They have the intelligence like the ant. Not very advanced. So the scientists need to understand this. And they're given an opportunity to do it in a kind of gradual way. This is an easy start. They don't have to accept directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Radha Shama Sundar form. It's not necessary. But they can begin by understanding that, yes, God is the soul of the universe, just like there's a verse like that in the Bhagavatam, that Krishna, I think it's Queen Kunti, she's describing how he's the soul of the universe. And the soul of the universe can mean Mahavishnu, because Mahavishnu generates universes from his breathing as he exhales. It's like our Carl Sagan scientist, you've seen that video, he actually explains the system of Mahavishnu breathing out and the universe is coming. He's impressed. How much his realization there is, that we cannot say, but he's certainly impressed by this and captivated by how could it be? But yes, he breathes out and the universe is come into being. He breathes in and they all go back inside. So he's the soul of the universe. The universe wouldn't have any existence without Mahavishnu. And not only that, but Mahavishnu expands as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. He lies down in the Garbhodak ocean, half filling the universe. And from him, his lotus navel sprouts, and Brahma is born. So Garbhodakashayi Vishnu can certainly be called the soul of the universe, because then it really becomes activated until the Lord enters as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. There's no real activity going on. Then with his presence and his giving life to Brahma, and Brahma, well, even before that, the Lord, as Mahavishnu Saikshata, he glances over the Mahatattva, material energy, and he agitates, just as a male, when he impregnates a female, then from that one action, so many things happen in the female's body. First of all, a new body is being created by her in her body. She's not actually creating it. It's being created by material nature. And in the sense of the Father that we know of, he's not really creating the soul. He's just passing on the soul. He's acting as a passive member who transfers. It's like a transfer company, transfers one object to another place, just passes it along. So he's passing on the seed that has been given to him by higher authorities, demigods and servants of the Lord. And then he passes it to the female who starts having things happen within her body. She starts producing this child. The body starts taking different ingredients from her body and redirecting it towards this little embryo that's forming. And she gets milk in the breast at a certain point, and all these amazing things start happening. That's because of the touch of the male, the Purusha. Without the Purusha, the male, interacting with the female, then female, she can be desiring having children for hundreds of years, but it won't work. Nothing will come. Has to be the male. Why? Because this is God's system. This is his arrangement. Has to be like that. There can be no other way. So we are making children in the test tube. Even if you recreate the test tube, or shall we say the womb of a female and the stomach, you create a place where a living entity could become an embryo and a child. You're just still taking the seed, you're borrowing the seed from the male, which is not created by anyone else but the Supreme Lord. Mamayavangso jiva bhuta jiva sanatana. The living entities are his eternal parts and parcels. Only God can generate living entities. And the humans or whatever species, they just carry the seeds. Bijan, Krishna says, Bijan, I am the seed of all existences. Sarvabhutana. Aham bija pradapita. I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. So as long as that's not recognized, then they won't make spiritual sense. They need to recognize that there is a sentient being, all powerful, all knowing sentient being. And the third expansion of the Lord, who may be called the soul of the universe, is Kshirodaksha Vishnu, expansion of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, who resides in the ocean of milk. And he, lying in the ocean of milk, he arranges for all the incarnations to come within the universe, such as Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, and so forth. And he also expands as the Paramatma within the living entity, the super soul in every living entity is localized. And even within the atom, he's localized. Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarasta. This is a great science. And this is being presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedic literature. So many wonderful things. We have so many sciences that can be developed and understood. The thing that everyone is looking for in every science should be, what is the cause? How is this working? Why is it working? From whom? That's what they should be trying to understand. How did such a thing happen? Is it an accident? And many of them declare that it is an accident. There was no purpose behind it. So then they should not be given degrees and glorification when they come up with such theories. They should be explained to them that you missed the point of the whole study. Your study has been a failure because you didn't perceive the personality of Godhead in your field, whether it's chemistry or physics or geology, whatever it may be. You missed the important feature, is the Lord. So this is a very nice opportunity for everyone to really learn how the universe is really going on. Not just speculation, different people have their own speculation, different philosophers. But here we have Supreme Lord's teachings coming down through disciplic succession. This is his personal line of education. This is how he disseminates knowledge through the disciplic succession. So if someone is trained in the disciplic succession to take the knowledge as it comes from higher authorities, then he's qualified to be a carrier of the transcendental wisdom. He doesn't have to change anything. He doesn't have to be some kind of a super brain to understand it. Krishna will give Tesham Satyayuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mama Piyantite. He will give all the knowledge required to the representative of the Sampradaya to pass on this information. It's all given.
Thank you, Maharaj. As Maharaj said, science should be to find the cause of a thing. What is the cause? How did this happen? But now we see in scientific fields today, they don't even care to explain the cause, but one of the main theories is that the universe came from a big bang. But any person who's thinking just a little bit would say, well, if there was some explosion, then who caused the explosion? And if science is supposed to explain what is the cause, then they should explain what is the cause of this explosion. Right when there's an explosion, anywhere that we see, immediately there's police and investigators and so many people to figure out, okay, what made the explosion? Who put it here? Why'd they do it? How'd they do it? So if people are simply bluffing, saying, here's some so-called theory of the universe. And then unfortunately, the public doesn't have the intelligence to then even ask, well, how did that happen? Or why is that there? But everything is provided. All of these things can be known. And as we're seeing here, the science of the whole universe is beginning to be explained very nicely here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In that verse of the Bhagavad Gita, 9:4, in the purport to that, there's a further explanation, because what we just read in the purport here was that everything and anything of the manifested world rests on him, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. And then from that Bhagavad Gita purport, we have this: the entire material cosmic manifestation is only a combination of his two different energies, the superior spiritual energy and the inferior material energy. Just as the sunshine is spread all over the universe, the energy of the Lord is spread all over the creation, and everything is resting in that energy. And then there's a little bit further here from that purport. But that does not imply that everything and anything in the vision of a materialist is Oh, sorry, that's from the Srimad Bhagavatam purport that we just read. That this comes later. That does not imply that everything and anything in the vision of a materialist is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Srila Prabhupada further explains on that point that everything in the vision of the materialist, everything and anything is not directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He further explains on that in that verse of the Bhagavad Gita, where he explains that one should not conclude that because he is spread all over, he has lost his personal existence. To refute such an argument, the Lord says, I am everywhere and everything is in me, but still I am aloof. For example, a king heads a government, which is but the manifestation of the king's energy. The different governmental departments are nothing but the energies of the king, and each department is resting on the king's power. But still, one cannot expect the king to be present in every department personally. And Srila Prabhupada explains that that is a crude example. So we see that everything is actually resting on the energy of the Lord, but still the Lord has his own personal existence. Just like another basic example would be like this microphone or the live stream that we're filming. Right now I'm speaking, and then when it's done, people can go back and hear it again, but now it's my separated energy. They still see me on the screen and hear my voice, but it's separated. So like that's what this material world is, and the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And looking a little more into the purport, some of these points were brought up, that as long as we have the desire to exploit this material world, and as long as we're seeing anything in this material world as being for my satisfaction, then we won't be able to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his universal form, or in his form that's all around us. Like Srila Prabhupada had mentioned in the purport, if anyone wants to realize the supreme truth by conceiving of the universal form, he must cultivate this service attitude. So if we think that anything in the world is mine, or something should be better arranged for me, or more I should be more in the center, something should be more attentive to me and my needs, like this, then we can't actually begin to realize the universal form of the Lord, and what to speak of his personal form and his pastimes. So if I'm thinking that I am this body, then that means if I see these lower planetary systems, then I would think something like, this is very nice. When Kansas City is too hot, I'll go here, Rasatala, or one of these places to enjoy, have a vacation. Or, there's very nice architecture in this lower planet, so I can go do some nice photography there for my enjoyment. Or let me avoid that one because there's too much suffering there. But this is actually Maya, because Maya means that which is not. So to see anything as being good or bad for my personal satisfaction is illusion, because every living entity, every conditioned living entity within the material world is seeing with this vision what's good for my senses, what's bad for my senses. I'll accept what's good for them and I'll reject what's bad. Everything in the world is meant for me. But a devotee doesn't see that way, because that's seeing the world as it is not. But someone like Shukadev Goswami, he's seeing the world as it is. He's living in reality. And so his qualification for seeing that reality was described here. It's his service attitude. And when one's natural service attitude is revived in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one will actually see the world as it factually is. So when Shukadev Goswami sees Patala Loka, as he's describing, he's not seeing these places as somewhere for his sense enjoyment or a vacation, or he doesn't think, oh, that's a very low part of the universe, so it's unimportant. I don't need to know about it. Like we might think sometimes when we're reading different details about the universe. he's not seeing it that way because of his service attitude, which is achieved by proper association with devotees, submissive hearing of the Bhagavatam, and chanting of the holy name. Because of that service attitude, when he sees these planetary systems, he's actually seeing the lotus feet of his most worshipable Lord. So he sees that these Patala planets are the soles of Krishna's lotus feet, and these Rasatala planets are the heels and toes of Krishna's lotus feet. The Mahatala planets are his ankles, and the Talatala planets are his shanks or shins. So it's with this vision of reality that's brought about by the cultivation of a service attitude that one can actually begin to realize the supreme truth, Sri Krishna, through his appearance in this universal form. Are there any comments or questions? Yes, Magadhari Prabhu.
Online, there's a question, how can we recognize or how do we know that we're situated in this proper mood of service?
That's a really good question. How can we know it? Well, the best way to know it would be seeing how are the devotees that are engaging me in that service feeling about the way that I'm doing that service. So devotional service outside the association of devotees is actually just a figment of our imagination. But when we're engaged in devotional service under the direction of the devotees and according to the bona fide scriptures, then the best way to know if we're doing it correctly is we check in with those things. So the easiest way is we check in with those devotees directly and see, is this okay how I'm doing it? Is there some way that I can change that could be more pleasing? And then we're also doing this in accordance with how devotional service is given in the scriptures. Because as we understand, any devotional service that's performed against the injunction of the scriptures or whimsically is actually a disturbance in society. It's not the real thing. So we check in with devotees, the scriptures, and the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So these things are like the checks and balance that show us if what we should be doing in devotional service and shouldn't be doing, and how we can adjust it to do it properly.
Good answer. And just along those lines, you can imagine if someone felt a lot of love for his country and he decided that he was going to, by himself, organize a wonderful system of government. And he didn't check with the government, the United States government. He just started on his own, deputizing people and giving them duties and doing different things and giving them guns and weapons and told them how to receive. If someone comes in, you use a gun and they have to give. He makes all these plans and he's trying to protect the United States against foreign invasions and so many things. And when the government finds out, they will immediately stop him and try to find out why he was doing it. He says, don't worry, I'm doing it for the good of America. I've only good plans, good arrangements. You should see all the wonderful things I've done. They'll not accept any of it. So yes, we have to be connected. We have to be in the line of those who are authorized to look after the well-being of, in this case, the United States, or in our case, to disseminate transcendental knowledge and to link with God. We can't just link with God on our own imagination. God's there in our heart, but there's a way to go about perceiving him in the heart and in Vaikuntha and in Goloka and in the stones that you see, the planets you see. There's a way to connect with him. And one has to do that in an authorized way, otherwise it doesn't work. It becomes a disturbance. Shruti Shmriti Puranadi Panchratra Vidim Bina Akantahi Harer Bakir Utpatayaiva Kalpate. if any philosophy that someone is propounding that is outside of the Shruti, the Smriti, the Vedas, the Puranas, all these Vedic literatures, if it doesn't fall in line with them, then it's simply a disturbance to society.
Thank you, Maharaj. Jaikeshwar Prabhu, did you have one last comment or question?
Hare Krishna, yeah, I just have a comment related to the topics of, we're talking about the Big Bang Theory and how it began from some super hot point somewhere, and then they study it now. So that's the main theory that physicists believe. And they have their evidence for that based on assumptions they make. But it still doesn't, for those who maybe are listening and think, well, maybe this Big Bang Theory could be the thing that why humans exist, and why can't, God exist at the same time as like the Big Bang Theory. Of course, we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it tells a different way of how the universe was created. And that's what we choose to put our faith in, you could say. But so if you look at the Big Bang Theory, and then evolution is based on that too, that everything came from this conglomeration of electrons and neutrons and neutrinos and all these little particles that scientists have identified. It still doesn't account for what we call the hard problem of consciousness, which related to easy problems you can understand, like how the muscle below the skin is the hair follicle is pushing the hair out of the skin. We can understand that. That's an easy problem. But the hard problem is understanding consciousness and why we have consciousness. And some scientists say that, okay, if we study the brain enough, we'll understand this hard problem. Well, they can go on speculating for millions of years. And they doesn't seem they're going to solve this hard problem of consciousness. So with that, we can use this hard problem of consciousness as an entry into explaining Krishna consciousness to someone from a science background, because this hard problem still exists. Anyway, thank you for your class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.